Well, hi there, farm families. I'm Rob Winters, the farm director of WOWO Radio here in Fort Wayne, and we've got a critical message that we need to share with you today. It really kind of started out with a brief conversation that Randy Crone and I had at the state capitol. We just kind of ran into each other and we started talking about broadband, and that has been a critical issue for us for a long time. And Randy, one of the things that we got to in the midst of that was is that you had put some real pressure on your county officials, came up with a solution, and now you have broadband. Can you share that story with us?
Yeah, I feel pretty fortunate and pretty blessed. You have to realize we went from basically no broadband to some phenomenal 500 and 500 up and down. But the story behind that was that there was enough pressure placed on our county council, county commissioners, that they started looking for solutions. And so they did some RFPs, and we were lucky that several people stepped up. And actually, it turned out for Vanderbilt County, AT&T was the one that got the contract. But I would just say none of this would have happened without having a county commissioner that was extremely focused and determined that she was going to get broadband all across rural Vanderbilt County, or basically all unincorporated parts of it. So pretty fortunate, but it takes a lot of hard work. This doesn't happen by chance by any means.
And, one of the parts of our conversation became, I said, well, Randy, is that duplicatable across the state? And you said, sure, but that means I got 91 other counties I got to deal with. And that's when we stepped in and said, we might have a better idea. Now, Katrina Hall joins us, and Katrina, thanks for being on the call with us today. One of the interesting things is that in our conversations as they went forward, is that we discovered that has been a lot of money, first of all, allocated to this, both state and federal. But we've got $800 million right now. It's kind of critical that we do some things specifically to make sure that we take advantage of that.
Yes, absolutely. So over the years, we've supported expansion of broadband into rural areas to the last mile, the last acre. Now is kind of our slogan, but and I think that's probably more accurate in what our members need across the state and rural communities. But over the course of the last two budget sessions, the General Assembly allocated more than $200 million to look what they call the Next Level Connections grant. So we supported that by sponsoring a speed test that was on our website. What we discovered was that the Indiana Broadband Office was getting ready to administer the BEAD program, which stands for Broadband Equity Access and Deployment program. And so in that, they were creating their own speed tests, their own maps and so forth to administer. And it's actually $868 million would be available for the Office of Broadband to grant to various internet service providers across the state, with the goal of getting access to high quality access, which is defined really that it's over 100 over 20 to every address or location in our state. In order to administer the grant, they not only created a speed test, but they also created a mapping system that will be useful and was a part of our speed test platform, so that folks can tell which addresses are served and which are not. And remember, the definition is above or below 100 over 20. So the next step for folks in rural areas especially is to focus on doing what they can do for themselves, which would be to take a speed test that they can find on connectingindiana.com.
I want to just comment on that. We've pushed our speed test. We've done a lot of these things, and that was all good. It helped some of the local grants. But what you got to understand, if you've done it before, this is a fresh start. So we've wiped the slate clean. We got to verify the maps or prove that we don't have that. So ones that say, oh, I've already done the speed test, a year ago, that doesn't count, unfortunately. This is a new program, and we're starting from scratch. So please don't think you've already done it and you've got it covered. We got to start over again.
So I referred to this in the opening that it's really critical. And Katrina, part of it is because we have a very brief window to deal with this in. So just to kind of underscore what Randy's saying there is just because you've taken the test before doesn't mean that you don't need to do it again, but we also have a deadline.
Correct. Randy is absolutely right. This is a federal program, so they get to set the rules, and in their so previous tests do not count for this particular program. It's just like our farmer members have to deal with program requirements when they go to FSA or anything in life. There are requirements, and you don't always get to determine those. So in this situation, you have to take the speed test 3 times on 3 different days. Save that information. You can do it through what is called a PDF or by screenshot, and then that information needs to be submitted, all 3 of those, along with a screenshot of your bill. So that sounds like a lot, but this particular amount of money is really intended for those very difficult areas that are still without any access. I mean, the majority of it is, this is supposed to be getting to the last mile. So Randy is really right about that. When they call it a challenge, they're not kidding. So nevertheless, it takes a little bit of work. But in addition, if you are actually at an address that has no service that you can purchase, then there are also ways on the connectingindiana.com's website that you can submit public comment. We were specifically concerned, as I have mentioned to you before, about that being a 30-day window that was really, that was just not enough time. So we pleaded with the Office of Broadband, and they actually amended their schedule. So we're excited about that. And so now the speed tests and those challenges may be taken until April 17th.
So a couple of quick questions. One of them is that I just want to get clear on this is, because with the Farm Bureau, we've talked so many times about not only the unserved, but also the underserved.
Correct.
So I just want to get clear there. Are we going to be, if we have it, but it's really spotty, are we going to get served as well?
Right. So if you are, there are 2 definitions. So unserved is anything under 25.3. Which, believe it or not, when the state's last grant program was put together, that was considered like acceptable. But now, as time goes by and people's needs go, and technology needs increase, so that's one category under BEAD, and that will be given the highest priority for those locations, as well as underserved, which we have really talked about for a long time. So that is anything under the 120. So essentially, if you're under 120, you need to participate in the challenge process.
Now, when we're taking the test, is it important to use our phone, or can we use a computer or a laptop?
Well, mostly you should be taking it on your home computer. In other words, testing not only what's coming in your house, but of course, some people will have, they're going to have Wi-Fi that goes around their house. So I think a lot of that will be filtered out through the various tests that this new platform will accommodate. But it is what is available inside your home. We have a lot of folks in rural Indiana, though, who they use their phone. That's the main test. Right. So if they take that test, any kind of a speed test will identify whether you are using what kind of service you're using. So is it terrestrial? Is it fixed wireless? Or is it coming in on cellular communication? So the test for anybody who is strictly using cellular communication techniques, a hotspot off your phone and things like that, those kind of things will show up in the data that will be included in your speed test that will be available to, when they decide where money needs to go.
And there's always a concern for what's happening with our data.
Mhm.
Data security these days, that always seems to be one of the topics that comes up. So how is
Okay.
the data used?
Well, the data that is going into this challenge process that we're talking about goes into a state website that is secure. They talk continually about cybersecurity. So I believe that your data there is about as safe as possible.
Yep.
Also, people do not the general public is not looking at a, I mean, they may be able to look at a map, but they're not going to get your individual data unless they register and are approved by the Indiana Broadband Office as as an entity that can receive that data. So there are checks and balances throughout that process,
Yeah.
which I have a lot of confidence in what they're trying to do.
Now, Randy, you navigated this process and you, at the outset, said it's really critical to get some of the local people on board. I'm always impressed at the Farm Bureau, impressed by the number of people who've already taken the speed test, also impressed by, the county farm bureaus. And it would seem that the county farm bureaus can take a real part in getting this out to their membership locally. But you've navigated the process. So tell us where some of the pitfalls are and where we really need to put some energy into this thing.
It's going to take numbers and, with the speed test, and we've got to have our rural members, most of our members are in the rural communities, and one of our priorities is rural viability. This broadband piece
Right.
is critical to that rural viability, and it's going to take members, it's going to take numbers, and don't think, well, my neighbor will do it, so I won't.
Right.
It's going to take
Yeah.
everybody jumping in, being a part of this to make it happen. Now, there's a bucket of money, and in my mind, $800+ million is a pretty big bucket of money. But realizing across, I think in Vanderbilt County, it was just a hair under $40 million to cover all the rural or outside the unincorporated parts of the county. So it takes a lot of money if you're laying fiber everywhere, but it's doable. There's a bucket of money, and our job is to make sure people understand and get it to the most needy of the areas, because there are areas, as I travel the state, I get in areas you can't get cell phone coverage, you got no internet, you're in dead areas.
Right.
And our job is to make sure we get the word out. Our county farm bureaus,
Yeah.
but I don't want to see a penny of it going to waste, and I want it to go to the most neediest
Yeah.
citizens across this state.
Yeah, good point. And Katrina, is it a use it or lose it proposition?
Well, I would say yes, but I think that most people believe that the needs are so great that we're not going to have money left over. So that, well, first of all, if it's not, then we just haven't done enough job to identify all the places. So that's kind of on our citizens. To the point where you're talking about people being engaged, the other thing that we have been encouraging folks to do is to also engage with, most counties have a broadband task force. And so we've been encouraging our members to reach out to them to see how they can help and be a part of local groups who are working to solve this issue. So in the next 45 days or so, that's going to be a really important part of this to gather up the speed test results and put them in a form of a challenge, which individuals are not necessarily, according to these rules, doing themselves, but you need an intermediary challenge organization to do that. So it's really important for folks locally to pay attention to what kind of stories they're hearing about what's going on locally. And as I said, most counties have that. And if you need a way to connect with that, they can certainly reach out to us, but also reach out to the Office of Broadband, and they will be able to get them engaged.
Randy, it seems like the Farm Bureau is really spearheading the effort here in the state. Are there any other organizations? I mean, as you and I spoke at the state capitol that day, and you were telling me your story, you really underscored the fact that it's important to get the county commissioners involved in this, but it really sounds like the Farm Bureau is spearheading this across the state.
I think
Oh,
we
I'm
are
proud
out of our
proud.
actions and what we're doing. And just, I appreciate your help on this and trying to get the word out because it's time sensitive right now to make it happen. I realize, we're getting close to planting season. And if you're in the farming community,
Right.
you're going to get busy doing other things. So I'd say, one, do it pretty quick here because you're going to get busy and you're going to forget about it. Two, I would encourage our members to reach the county commissioners, county council, and
Right.
make sure they know that this is actually going on and there's some opportunity and they can maybe help influence some of the outcomes. But yes, I think our farm bureaus are engaged in this by all means. It's important. They know the need for it. And, I am thrilled with what we have. I feel very blessed on what we have,
Right.
but I also lived on for a number of years and through COVID on the other end where I was on, the Wi-Fi with the video and on my cell phone for the audio and marginally doing a Zoom call. And so I've been on both ends of it. I think it's important. We've got an opportunity. We just have to seize the moment and make sure we take advantage of it. The dollars are on the table. We need to make sure they go to the right places.
Right.
Katrina, some final words?
I completely agree with Randy, and I think seize the day is a perfect way to look at this opportunity. And this is, farmers are independent and they want to be able to control their own destiny. And this is certainly the way to do that. So no more complaining. If you're not, it's kind of like, are you voting or don't complain? But this is actually, yes. I mean, you've got an opportunity to stand up for yourself, which isn't always easy, but you have to do it right now.
Well, we've got an opportunity. So the bottom line is get engaged.